Thanks for tuning in to Look at My JPEG, the podcast that discusses NFT, DeFi, and NFT financialization. This is your host, Xerox Jose, the founder of nftperp. The reason why I want to do this podcast is because there's just not enough people talking about NFT financializations. In this podcast, you can expect us to invite guests that are builders, founders, even investors that are deep in the NFT financialization space. We'll discuss their story, what they're building, and how you can get involved. So thanks for tuning in. Welcome to episode 9. For episode 9, we have the guest from Nibbl Finance. Nibbl is a NFT fractionalization protocol that allows multiple different people to own a single NFT in the form of fractionalizing. After an NFT is fractionalized, it can also be bought out by a single person. So you can think of it kind of like the traditional private equity model where you can have fundraised for different rounds and then people being bought up in the next round. So we're extremely excited to have the team from Nibbl Finance share about their story, what they're building, and the different use cases of Nibbl. Without further ado, let's welcome the team, Nibbl Finance. We're live. Welcome to another episode of Look at My JPEG. Episode number 9, we have, I believe, Arnav from Nibbl. Welcome to the podcast.
GM. Hi, Jose. Let me know if I'm pronouncing it right. Arnav will be joining in some time. Yeah. Am I audible?
Yeah, we can hear you fine. This is great.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining in.
Yeah, likewise. Arnav will be joining in sometime. I can there's just some issues on the back end. In the meantime, for sure we can go forward. We can definitely have some starter, and then of course let's wait for him to chime in and we can go ahead. Yep.
Okay, perfect. And who am I speaking with? Is this Hiran?
Yep, I think Arnav is there. I'll just from this account.
Okay, perfect. No problem. We can wait for him for a little bit. But I guess before we go on right away, let's also just have a quick introduction on, for those maybe listening for the first time, Look at My JPEG is a podcast that focuses on NFT financialization products. So anywhere we have the, sort of the intersection of DeFi and NFTs, we love to invite them on to talk about what they're building, what their journey looks like, what problem they're solving, and how someone like you that are listening can get involved. So real quick, before I butcher what Nibbl is, a quick introduction on Nibbl. It is a fractionalization protocol that allows people to fractionalize their NFT and have essentially smaller participants in DeFi or the NFT communities to get a stake on the NFT, underlying NFT itself. And I think just before we hop in on the full-on interview, I think this is a really interesting way for people to get involved. We've seen interesting protocols such as NFTX that's sort of pioneered the financialization space in terms of fractionalization, and also there's other protocols like Fractionalize, all different sorts of angles on tackling this problem. So very excited to have Nibbl on today as our guests. I'm going to invite them on as speakers so they can all kind of chime in on the conversation, and we'll take it from there. All right, we got Hiran on as one of the team members at Nibbl. Do we have Arnav joining soon as well?
Yes, he's there in the Nibbl account. I think he should be accepting the request. Yeah, he's here.
Perfect. All right, a little bit of mishap, but welcome to the show.
Thanks, guys. Sorry for the confusion. Actually, I was there from the account. It was just hidden for some reason. Also joined from the Nibbl account. So I think we had like 2 people, and I was not able to speak. But yeah,
no problem.
Yeah, really looking forward to learning more about nftperp as well, and also obviously sharing what we are building and some cool things like that. Some other cool things that we can talk about.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, I guess before we hop into Nibbl directly, let's get the audience to know you guys a little bit better. Tell us who you are, give us your background a little bit. How did you get into crypto? Maybe what's your first NFT?
Sure. Yeah, I have been in crypto since 2017. I mean, I was in college back then, and I yeah, I somehow got into it. Like one of my college seniors introduced me to it, and then yeah, I started doing a podcast in India. Like it sort of became pretty popular back in the day. Like it was, one of the most listened, if not the most listened ones in India. Like at least technical or like product focused podcast. And then I got an internship at Gnosis, and like that was my sort of, break into crypto from a professional sort of standpoint. Back then Gnosis was just starting to work at Gnosis Safe, and they were working on DutchX, which was like precursor to Gnosis Auction or CowSwap sort of. um, so yeah, that's how I got into crypto, and yeah, started working on Nibbl in 2021. um, I had like after Gnosis, I had like worked at a couple of other companies, like Bioeconomy, Zilliqa, and I was looking in the NFT space. I mean, I was there in CryptoKitties time. I saw what happened, and I didn't buy a CryptoKitty, because by the time I think I saw it, it was already really expensive. But like by the time I thought to buy it, I mean, it was a bit expensive. So but I was looking in the NFT space, and then late 2020 I saw that Beeple and some of the digital artists sort of were becoming really popular. We had Super Rare was really popular back in the day with artists, and I was thinking, okay, this space is going ballistic. We are going to have like a lot of digital assets which will have a lot of value, like in millions. um, and it would make sense if people could collectively own or like pieces of some of the rarer ones. Like that was my thought process. And there was this fractionalization platform called Niftex, which was there in that time. And then I was looking at what's the problem with Niftex, why there isn't much traction there. um, like I identified basically two main problems. First was with token liquidity, and second was with buyouts. um, and yeah, like then that's how I sort of started working on Nibbl, like when I found out about Niftex. And then also just yeah, I was looking at what's the problem. And yeah, my first NFT buy was actually a hash mask. I think, yeah, a buy was a hash mask. I got sent some NFTs, or like maybe I don't know, in during, actually I think the World Cup was in 2020 or something, last World Cup, or I don't remember. But I remember being buying some trading card, like some footballing card on OpenSea, like back in yeah, maybe it was 2018. I don't know, but I don't remember what happened with that. And OpenSea was also just starting. But now I think the first PFE was a hash mask in January 2021. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even then, I think that's considered, um, I guess in crypto years, first of all, like 1 year equals to 7 years. So if you've been around since 2017, technically you have a pretty old crypto age. I think outside of that, if you have an hash mask like early, 2021, you're considered one of the OGs in NFTs, in my opinion. So hats off to you on that. Real quick, I think we can also kind of segue our way into what Nibbl does specifically. In terms of fractionalization, what was your pain point in terms of like looking at these fractionalization protocols as a user, and what kind of inspired you guys to build Nibbl?
Yeah, I think when I was just starting to look at it, Niftex was the only one. Um, there were maybe. mm Yeah, I think Niftex was the only one. There was also Uniquely, which sort of came around a bit later. But the main one was, yeah, as I was saying, that people um, were not able to buy some of these tokens because like let's say if you're fractionalizing an asset and then uh, on the AMMs there wasn't enough liquidity, and like if you had to buy a good amount of it or something, like you had to suffer a lot of slippage. um, and there were like a lot of these tokens that existed, like of punks, and like I think there was an alien punk that was fractionalized, and I remember like people trying to buy tokens of it, and just there wasn't how the liquidity mechanism was there. Like people were using normal AMMs, but for low liquidity assets or like for less market cap assets, normal AMMs were not sort of optimized. I guess like usually I think AMMs are good if someone can add a lot of liquidity and also think yeah, I mean, they are good for like professional users, like compared to normal people, like um people, projects that raise millions from VCs, and then they can add liquidity, think on impermanent loss, etc., etc. um like starting a pool. That was like one issue. Then second was around buyouts, where once an NFT was fractionalized, if there isn't a good buyout mechanism, the NFT just stays locked in the smart contract, and the person who's fractionalizing, they are taking a risk in a way then, because if the NFT can't be made whole again, and they are not able to generate enough hype on the fractional tokens, then then basically yeah, someone won't be able to yeah, make it whole again. So they are essentially, let's say you had a Bored Ape or punk, like let's say a Bored Ape worth 100K. In a way, let's say you are able to generate some hype, and like you're able to sell very less tokens, then like the rest of the money will just stay locked, which is not a good scenario to have. And then another problem with buyouts was that, like, if I remember with Niftex, what's the issue was that once a buyout was triggered, uh, the current owners, or like even from someone from outside, it was very difficult for them to reject the buyout. Like it was yeah, it was not that easy for them to reject the buyout. It was very easy for someone to come in and trigger the buyout, and once they are able to do it, like it's almost guaranteed that the buyout will succeed. So that was also an issue, because people who were buying these tokens, in some of the cases, like these tokens sometimes had some utility in some ecosystem, or like the original like NFT fractionalizer, he had some sort of vision that he wanted to execute on. So it like if a buyout happens too easily, or it doesn't happen at all, like these were the two cases that were mostly happening in the fractionalization platforms. Like I remember, yeah, there were like some platforms, they were like so badly designed that for in order for buyout to happen, or someone had to buy all the ERC20 or like fractional tokens. So that was also not that optimized. So yeah.
Right. So for those that are listening, a quick definition on the words that we're using. So to fractionalize an NFT, the reason for, first of all, the reason for fractionalizing is because an NFT is a non-fungible token. So it can only act its own. So you have to have smart contract built on top of this to essentially allow multiple different addresses to own this underlying NFT with the representation of either ERC20 or other form tokens. So I'll get to that in a little bit, because you guys have an interesting ERC1155 mechanism as well. So for someone to first fractionalize the NFT, that allows multiple different parties to own this underlying asset. And a buyout literally means either one or a couple of buyers will come in, essentially buy out all the supply from this fractionalized version of the token, and getting the underlying NFT original that's been fractionalized out of that equation, or quote unquote, in some cases is a vault, right? So a good example would be if you imagine you are fractionalizing your Bored Ape on NFTX, for example, and you create a liquidity pool on Sushi Swap, AMM. Essentially, if you don't have a proper mechanism to allow buyouts, you're going to have the entire AMM moving up in prices and suffering pretty massive slippages as it goes all the way up. Because for AMM standpoint, there's infinite liquidity, so you can never reach in terms of buying out tokens from that pool entirely, right? So there's always liquidity in there. So that's one of the issue that Arnav here is sort of articulating. So thank you for covering that.
Yeah. I mean, with NFTX, it's a floor value sort of platform, right? So it's and they don't have like a buyout mechanism per se. Like in NFTX, when you deposit an NFT, you get you get one ERC20 token, and like you basically create one pool for the whole collection in NFTX, like one pool for the whole NFT sort of. Let's say for Bored Apes, there will be one pool for all the Bored Apes, and if someone deposits a Bored Ape, they get like one ERC20 token. If someone deposits another Bored Ape, they also get one ERC20 token, and then people can people can sort of start like they can just buy. And like, okay, when someone deposits and they get an ERC20 token, someone can add liquidity on Sushi Swap, as you were saying, and then people can sort of buy a piece of the floor by buying, the ERC20 tokens on Sushi Swap.
Yeah, I think the major differences is you guys are NFT specific. So
Yeah.
it could be a group of NFTs. It could be one specific NFT. That's not necessarily floor value NFTs, right? Because
Yeah.
in an NFT collection, because we like to think about, we come from DeFi background, so we like to think about all tokens being relatively the same in terms of value. But in NFT, that's not the case, right? I think Goldman Sachs has done a pretty good research on distribution on pricing of NFT sales across a collection. So there's a good amount that hovers around floor, but for the mid-tier and Grail collections, it's actually a good amount that hovers in terms of pricing around plus 40%, or even at times 200%, 300% above. So for those cases, there's essentially no proper ways to fractionalize and allow others to have fractional ownership and proper price discovery for those higher tier NFTs, basically.
Yes. Exactly. For us, like, you can take any NFT, you can have a basket of NFTs, and then fractionalize them. Yeah, and as you were saying, the main purpose is that you want to allow multiple people to own them, and the NFT contract itself, right now, it's defined like one NFT can be owned by one person. I feel like in future that might change as well. Like in the future, we could have and we could have at the contract level some interesting ways where fractionalization can happen. um,
Okay, I think given this sort of context, I think the listeners now have a good idea of what we're kind of speaking about. Give us a little quick introduction on Nibbl, what it does, how it's different from the current fractionalization protocols.
yes. So yeah, right now, if you look at the market for like fractionalization for like any NFT sort of, there's, I think, just one player in the market apart from us, which is Tessera slash Fractional. So I mean, in terms of comparing Nibbl, I would say I will just refer to Tessera, because yeah, I mean, there are some others, but they are sort of not that relevant, I guess, and anymore, like uniquely and seasons and stuff, like no one uses them. um so yeah, like, okay, how we are different, I would say, is we have, as I was mentioning, how we are doing token trading and and buyouts is how we are different. For token trading, we use a bonding curve, and how the mechanism works is like, anyone can come in and fractionalize the NFT, like, and the process is very simple. Like, that's same for actually Fractional and even us, which is that you just come in, you deposit the NFT in a smart contract, and then you create ERC20 tokens that represent ownership in that NFT. Like, that's how the mechanism is. And once the buyout happens, let's say buyout is successful, then the people who were like owning the ERC20 tokens, they are able to redeem their tokens for ETH at the valuation the buyout was triggered at, and the person who triggered the buyout is able to unlock the NFT from the smart contract. So at that's just like the at the if you have to have a very hawkeye view or a bird's eye view, that's how the mechanism works.
So
Now, yeah,
on a high level, what you're saying is those that fraction. So first, as an NFT owner, I fractionalize my NFT, and that creates a supply of tokens, right? And
yes,
the multiple parties, like the public, can now come in and speculate on pricing of this, a supply of tokens, essentially on a bonding curve,
yes,
and then an outsider who wants to essentially buy out the entire underlying NFT can come in with additional capital without sort of pumping up pricing on the token supply that's being fractionalized.
yes,
And those that have a position in the on the bonding curve are holding those tokens are essentially entitled to a buyout. So you can think of it kind of like in venture capital, you basically get these different rounds of early primary investments, and then when an IPO starts, this will be a different case. I guess it's more like
I mean,
another
it's like
round.
buyout. It's buyout of, like, for example, there's buyout of a company, of a public company. It's like that,
Exactly.
actually.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is like I guess like taking it private, right?
Yes, exactly, exactly. It's like taking, like, how Elon Musk was trying to take Twitter private. So something like that, where, I mean, for sure, like, the mechanism there is different. You have to buy some percentage, and like, there are, I think, multiple ways you can make take a company private. But the essential idea is that where you have an asset that is publicly owned by a lot of people, and then there's one person or like a group of person who want to make it like theirs, and so that's essentially it. And like the people who are owning it, they, let's say, you are holding on to 1% of the token supply. Someone bought it for 100 ETH, then you will be entitled to 1 ETH, essentially. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, this is very interesting because this is sort of like zooming ourselves out of the JPEG, because right now most of the JPEGs in NFT space, JPEGs take a lot of the attention. People understand it, they can relate to it. So there's a lot of volume and essentially value in these ecosystems. But if you zoom out, this can be applied to like real world assets. It could be
Yeah.
a house, it could be a company, whatever it is. If you have this asset that's represented through an NFT, you can fractionalize it and eventual buyout. So I think this is really, really interesting.
Yes, yes. Yeah, with real world assets, for sure they can be. If yeah, it's but the main challenge there is actually, regulatory, I would say, instead of technical.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
for sure. Okay, so let's take a little bit of a sharp turn and talk about the doodle you have as a PFP, because I noticed there are two listeners live with us right now that have the same PFP. Can you give us a little backstory on that?
Yeah, yeah, sure, sure. Also, maybe I think, yeah, we can talk a bit on the buyout mechanism if you're interested, like how it works.
Sure,
I
no
think
problem.
that would be interesting for the audience. So, how essentially it works is that we have this thing called buyout timer, where, let's say you fractionalize the NFT and you didn't want the NFT to get bought out for, let's say, 1 year. Okay, so you can set a buyout timer. Like, let's say you want to build a community around these tokens. You can then, set a timer accordingly, let's say for 1 year, and then within that 1 year time frame, no one will be able to buy out. But let's say that 1 year
Just
time
for
frame finishes.
clarity, you're
Yeah.
saying the person who fractionalized the NFT gets to choose the buyout lockout time, right?
Yes, the initial time where no, like, buyout can't be triggered. That time, yeah, yeah, and then once that is expired, only then someone can come in and trigger a buyout. It's not like they. It's not that buyout is guaranteed, right? For example, with this doodle, we set a timer of around 2 weeks. After we've like that till 2 weeks, no one will be able to trigger a buyout. But till now, no one has come in and triggered a buyout because right now the if someone has to trigger a buyout, they have to pay like 10 ETH or something, because like some guy and like a lot of people, like they put in some money, like they have been buying at a higher price than floor price, for some reason, I don't know. And then the buyout, if someone has to trigger a buyout, I don't know the exact numbers, but it was around 10 ETH or something. So no one has triggered a buyout, but now people have an option to trigger a buyout. Like before, it was not available. So that is one thing which we have. But yeah, sorry, you want to ask something on this?
Yo, that's interesting. So let's talk about the value, moving of assets when these operations happen. So when someone fractionalizes an NFT, let's say I'm a Doodle owner or the original Doodle owner,
Yes.
I fractionalize it. Do I need to add some ETH
Yes.
into this pool so that people
Yes.
can
Yes.
have, price discovery?
Yes. So we use a bonding curve. It's like standard like Bancor bonding curve, and in that you need to have add some initial liquidity which sort of supports. Let's say you have an asset, you're valuing your asset around 100 ETH. So this in this curve, there is all, how we have designed is that there's always liquidity at all points from zero to like infinity valuation. And essentially, I mean, how it works is like when you are adding, you're fractionalizing, and let's say you set an initial valuation of 100 ETH, you need to add minimum 5 ETH, or maximum you can add around 30 ETH worth of liquidity. So let's say you add 10 ETH worth of liquidity. That liquidity is used to support the system from 0 to 100 ETH valuation. And then let's say someone starts buying the tokens, right? So this is a bonding curve. And what happens then is that price increases. So price or valuation, whatever you want to say. So valuation would increase, let's say from 100 to 105, 120, 130, etc. And the supply also increases actually, because yeah, this is a bonding curve. So both price and supply increase, and let's say if there is selling, then both, price and supply both decrease. And in buyout, what happens essentially is, let's say the curve was at 100 ETH valuation and someone came in and triggered the buyout. Now there is a timer of 4 days that starts after buyout is triggered, wherein the community has the option to reject the buyout, the community or even someone from outside, by putting in some money into the system. So let's say someone triggered the buyout 100 ETH. If the community puts in money into the system, then the valuation would, let's say, go up to 110 ETH, 150 ETH, 15 ETH, etc. And the buyout would, like, okay, like let's say valuation goes up 110, 105, whatever, and within that 4 day period, if the valuation reaches 115, then the buyout is rejected. And the person who triggered the buyout is able to like withdraw the money, and the NFT just remains fractionalized. And we directly pick up this valuation and all these things from our bonding curve, so it's not like reliant on another AMM and stuff. And this valuation is actually very, it's not prone to, like, you can't pump up valuation very high in this system, like, because just how this bonding curve is defined. There is, like, for example, if you want to go from 100 to 115, you need to put in like 5 ETH. We are not like using some uh, low liquid market on, some AMM. So yeah, anyways, I think I have talked about a lot. But yeah, essentially that's the Biden mechanism. Community can reject it in 4 days. If it doesn't get rejected, then it gets accepted automatically, and the person who triggered the buyout is, like, able to unlock the NFT and make it whole again. And the person who and the people who are holding on to the tokens, they are able to redeem their tokens for ETH. In case of success, in case of rejection, like, nothing, the NFT remains fractionalized, and the person who triggered the buyout is just able to withdraw back his money.
That's super interesting. So say there are 3 or 4 interested buyers that want to buy out. Would there be a bidding process?
Sorry, what I was saying, yeah, I mean, not right now. Like, right now, there's just one bid that can be placed at the current valuation. If someone does want to, uh, sort of place a higher bid, what they can do is they can increase the valuation to like 115 ETH or whatever, and then they can come in and trigger the buyout as well at that point of time. Like, But at one point of time, there's just going to be one bid for the community to reject.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you for breaking that down for us. So I think now we have a good understanding of what Nibbl does and how community can get involved on a specific NFT instead of just focusing on floor price. I guess in a way it's speculation. Tell us a little bit about the Doodle NFT
Yeah.
PFP you have and why there are two more in the audience also having the same.
I mean, in reality, there are around 200 people or something who have the same, but sure. On the audience, we have two more. And this doodle, so as part of our launch, what we wanted to experiment, we wanted to experiment with a lot of ideas actually that we have had since we started building Nibbl. One idea was that we wanted to allow, we wanted to see if we can move some NFT from ETH to layer 2 and get ownership amongst for thousands of people for a relatively okay NFT, not like, for example, an NFT that's worth $5 million, but $20,000 or whatever. So what we did is we moved this doodle from ETH to Polygon via the Polygon POS bridge. What that means is you just transfer the NFT from ETH to the Polygon sort of POS bridge address on Ethereum, and it just gets locked there, and a new NFT gets minted on Polygon. And then once this new NFT is minted on Polygon, you can start then we sort of fractionalize that NFT on Polygon, and we basically ran some competitions. So we mostly, I would say, right now we have around 800 people or so owning this doodle, and from that, 500 or 600 are just people who have been given away tokens, and then rest some bought them just for fun, for adding it to the PFP, or they wanted to be part of the community, etc. And one of the reason we have so many people still who have this as a PFP is on our platform we have this thing called token gated PFP chat, where people who have these have some specific number of tokens and they have this PFP on Twitter, only they are able to access that chat. So that's still one of the reasons this doodle is so many people have this on as the PFP. And in the next 2 months or so, we are gonna continue to do some interesting things, where we will sort of reward our users or a community with fractions of a token, so that this number goes up to 2,000 or 3,000. That's what we are aiming for around 2,000 to 3,000 people to own this collectively. Because for so many people, we were not expecting, in fact, we were expecting that since we are giving away these tokens for free, we will have a lot of people sell these once they get the tokens. But to be honest, not many people have sold, maybe 5% or something like that have sold, because it's very interesting for people to add these to their PFP, because literally not everyone can afford a PFP of a doodle, and it's very interesting for them to add it as a PFP, and they actually own part of the uh, they own a part of the doodle, and they don't feel bad also to add it as a PFP. So yeah, that's the story on this doodle.
Yeah, for sure. I think just off the top of my head, there's a lot of really interesting applications can be applied for in the case of Nibbl. Right? If you think about one of the interesting mechanisms that some of the NFT communities that are well known and have sort of explored fractionalizing a specific NFT and allowed a bunch of people owning it. What comes to mind is Bobu. So Bobu is, I think it's the Azuki NFT number 40, if I'm not wrong, token ID. And there is essentially another set of a supply of smaller NFTs representing the ownership of Bobu. And that itself, they've created sort of a DAO-like, community-like mechanism behind it. So I think Nibbl, in this case, could be used for these cases where if you have this massive company that's represented through the NFT in the form of an IP. Like some of these Bored Apes out there are using their image for commercial usage, for creating companies and branding behind it. These sort of fractionalization, representing a community behind it is a really good use case for Nibbl.
Yes, yes. And I think with CC0, um, okay, I'll tell you one interesting feature which we are just going to launch soon, which is you can have these ERC20 tokens and you can wrap them to create ERC1155 tokens. So, like, let's say, you have a piece of a fractional token, you can literally, wrap. You can wrap some of the tokens and create an ERC1155. And I think like one thing which I'm really bullish on is CC0. And with CC0 collections, what you could potentially have is that these, let's say you have, one base level NFT, like let's say, this doodle, but doodle is not CC0, but let's imagine that. And then you could have different images of each, like when you wrap your NFT, like wrap your fraction tokens to ERC1155, you can have like one variation of this like one different variation of this base doodle, so that we can have like so many people owning sort of this doodle and having like sort of the similar PFP, but there will be some changes in their image. So that is like one idea. And I am pretty bullish actually on people using these fractional tokens to get potentially millions of people interested in one of the NFT. And a lot of collections can explore this because you can take an NFT from your existing, collection and fractionalize it and get, like, for example, potentially millions to own it without diluting your original collection. Like, you don't need to launch another secondary collection to like a whole new secondary collection to attract new community members. You can just take one like one NFT from the existing collection, and your current holders are also happy, and you are also happy in a way. Like, you don't need to launch another one and get so many people to own it. Like, that's what happened with Bobu, for example, where I think it had at its peak around 12,000 owners or something like that, and not like a lot of them actually owned any Azuki as well. It was like small ticket, holders.
Yeah, I think it speaks to a different, demographic in the space. Perhaps those that are relatively new don't have a ton of money to, punt around JPEGs. It's a good way for them to get their, feet wet in the system, in the ecosystem, and understand what the culture and, and all that looks like. So, quick question: what are your current plans in terms of, in the near 3 to 6 months? What do we expect from the Nibbl team? And just for the listeners right now, if you guys have any questions, we have a Q&A session at the end. So if you want to make a request at the end, we'll go ahead and accept you guys, and feel free to ask any questions if you have. But for now, Arnav, I'll let you answer.
Yeah. So for next 3 to 6 months, we have like some partnerships lined up with some NFT collections and NFT projects. Like, Good Mind is one, for example, which we have announced publicly, but there are some other collections as well where they are going to take some NFT from the collection and then uh, fractionalize it and create a very big community around their collection, and like, around one of the NFT, sorry, and then use the fraction tokens for interesting mechanism. Like, for example, what they are doing is, like, they are partnering up with another company and to incentivize people to try out that company's product. And like in that company there's some in like basically in that company's product they have to um mention something about good minds and stuff. So to incentivize people, they are going to reward in that fractional token, like in that Vonda, for example, fraction token. So there are a lot of ideas that I want to explore, and I'm really bullish on social for these fraction tokens, because people are collectively owning them, and they, like, all feel part of this community. So it's like, in a way, an NFT collection itself, a fractional NFT. You have a community, and you can do like interesting token gating mechanisms, and then have the community do some interesting things, like maybe play a game together, or like, draw something together, or like etc etc. um, so for the next 3 to 6 months, really want to explore the social side of things with fractionalization. Also, yeah, try to get. We have like some plans where we potentially want to have an NFT be owned by millions, and on layer two that is definitely possible. um, so that is something which I'm interested in. And then as we sort of fine tune our protocol and fine tune some of these features, also in the pipeline we want to target like non PFP assets, where it can be gaming assets, or can be like any asset which can be used by people as well for something, instead of just like a PFP, which is just people just hold it in their wallet. So that is how we are thinking on next few months.
Got it. Yeah, I think the possibility, in terms of Nibbl, how it could be used, is really wide. In the gaming world, you could potentially have several different players owning a specific NFT, and that NFT is essentially a player in the metaverse, or in whatever game there is. So definitely very excited to see how this play out. I guess outside of that, is there anything that you would like the listeners to potentially do or follow, or join your Discord? How would the listeners get know you guys a little bit better by joining your community?
Yeah, I mean, you can follow us on Twitter, and yeah, join our Discord. We have some interesting partnerships, and like you could own some piece of some of these NFTs. For example, we had a partnership with Daplis where they fractionalized the Emperor. Then obviously Doodle is there. Then there are some other blue chips as well that are gonna come soon. So yeah, you can join our Discord, and yeah, then like you'll sort of get to know about these. But yeah, that's it, to be honest. If you want a free, like some fraction of a doodle and you want to become like join a token gated PFP chat, whatever, like just ping us, like we'll hook you up. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, at some point, maybe the Badula you have will get a buyout, and then those that are holding your NFT actually get the ETH, right? So that's really interesting.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you guys so much for coming on to look at my JPEG and share all your story and what you guys are building. Really, really excited to see how Nibbl plays out in the near 3 to 6 months, and appreciate you guys giving the listeners about what you guys are building and sharing your story.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, guys. Was fun chatting, and yeah, wish you the best as well on what you're building.
All right, thank you guys for tuning in to Look at My JPEG. We'll see you guys again next week. Have a good one. Thank you for tuning in to Look at My JPEG podcast. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your audio podcast from, give it a like, a subscribe if you like the content, and we'll see you in the next episode. Cheers.